Introducing Tom Sachs.
Thank you. Woo. Well, thanks, Ikea, and thanks for having me. What an honor, and also to be here during this time where we're talking about democratic design. I don't come from an art background. I'm come from a consumerist background. When I was a little boy, I made this model. I was about 7 years old for my dad. He wanted a Nikon FM2, and he couldn't afford it, so he got the Olympus OM1, and I made this out of clay for him. And it was my first genuine fake. I think it's really authentic, the motivations behind this. Obviously, it's made out of clay, but there's nothing more true and pure than making something for someone you love. I love the last prompt. What do you want to do? How do you find creativity? And I think if you don't know, your job is finding it. And if you do know, do it for love, whatever that means, for someone, for something, for yourself. And so flash forward to me landing in New York City after college, trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life. And I loved Pete Mondrian. I really wanted a Mondrian, but I didn't think it was authentic to move down to Wall Street and get a job in finance to afford one. So I went to the Museum of Modern Art and I made one out of gaffer's tape. I think I spent more time with Broadway Boogie Woogie than Eli Broad, the property developer who spent his life making money to buy it and give it to the Museum of Modern Art. So I think I found, again, authenticity in that experience. And can you hear me with the music? Okay, great. Yeah. So Chanel Guillotine, I sort of made this for this imaginary dream couple who lives in Tribeca. It was like Chanel Guillotine Breakfast Nook. And I'm going to brag because this is in the Pompidou Center in Paris, like best collection in France, and in their permanent collection. And it's a great testament to the humor of the French people that they could embrace something that embodies their two greatest cultural exports. And I think you'll see the French vibe in the attitude of the works that follow. I always wanted a Kelly bag, but there's this thing that you shouldn't have a Porsche 911 before you're 40 or a Kelly bag before you're 40 years old, because then you'll have nothing to look forward to in like the truest devout sense of a religion that is consumerism. I don't really wear handbags, but I still love this because it's like it's the ultimate handbag. I think they're $40,000 now, and so I made mine out of plywood, and you can see if you look at it closely, like all the resin, like this is just like epoxy resin and fiberglass and all the screws. So one of the important things of what I do, whether it's the thumbprint in ceramics or a screw or resins that you see that it's made, that's even a resin drip. That's the advantage of something that's handmade over something that's made in industry. So I always try and take advantage of that in the studio. And I know that's very different than what we do in industry, but everything has its advantage. Intimacy, scale. Can you find some hybrid? Those are the questions I'm always asking. Yeah, that joint's great. It's supposed to be leather wrapped around, but it's obviously screws. So my lust for consumerist stuff it includes real estate, and I always wanted to own post-war housing project, not to be a slumlord, but just to embrace the ideals of Le Corbusier, the second greatest artist of the 20th century. And so I built this model of Unité. I think it's the largest model of it made. We showed this at the Guggenheim Museum in Berlin as part of a larger project comparing the successes and failures of modernism with Le Corbusier versus McDonald's. This is a fully functional McDonald's. I mean, the food's terrible, but the Gesamtkunstwerk, like the total package that is McDonald's, is unmatched. So I'm not, but I think it's important that we understand that there's good and bad in everything, and I certainly admire their systems and most of all the uniforms. These are Tyvek jumpsuits with duct tape McDonald's on them, and this little photocopier. There's a flap in the back of the jumpsuits, and you take it down, you sit on the photocopier, and you take a picture, and then you wrap the burger in that. So. My burgers are really good. We went to like the fancy grocery store and got really good meat, but it was still kind of a cognitive dissonance when you're eating. My greed and ambition for consumerist stuff is not even limited to Earth. Here, this is the Apollo lunar module. A lot of other jerks have made their own lunar module for high school plays and tree houses, but I'm the only one who's made one without a central column holding it up. I know there are a room full of engineers here, so this room of nerds will appreciate I'm looking to you. A central column makes it easier, but if you don't have that, you have to make the legs work the way theirs work. So there's mine, and then there are the ones on the moon. A couple in labs and stuff. It's part of a gigantic project called Space Program, where the story of going to other worlds is told through 50 screens. What we can't do with kerosene and rocket fuel, we do with cardboard and duct tape. I mean, this LEM is made of plywood and resin, like that. Like the Kelly bag. And you see everything. One of the values of me and my studio is the transparency and just showing how it's made. I know I said that, but I'm just going to keep saying it over and over again. Sort of my first step into industrial design. I always wanted to be an industrial designer in college, but in life and in college they didn't offer it, so I fell into sculpture. And this is a project I did in 2011. With Nike called the Mars Yard, and it was used by us when we were at Mission Control. This was the shoe that was meant for rocket scientists and astronauts. This material is called Vectran, and it's used on the airbags for bouncing the first Mars rover, the Pathfinder, down to Earth. And I got that during a residency I did at Jet Propulsion Laboratory. But what I think's most successful to me is that this embodies the qualities of the sculptures, in that the materials are natural, the color of natural rubber. It's polyurethane, it's pigskin. This is the native color of Vectran, and only the swoosh and the donning straps, where the fingers go, are colored to say insert foot here, or this was made by this company. I'm wearing sort of like the 5th version of it, and that's the first version. So this will be available in the fall, and you'll all be invited to get a pair if you want to participate in the challenge app, which you'll find out in a few weeks. So just when we're thinking about finding ways to find authenticity in design, it's always important to bring your values all the way through, even if the methods of production change and influence how they're made. And this is this worked. So now some chairs. These are the chairs that we sat in. The audience. Sorry, we don't use the word audience. We use civilian witnesses. And it's not performance art. It's a live demonstration of our systems. We have a jar, or a swear jar. If you call it a performance, you have to put €1 in this. And I'm as guilty as anyone. But I love the Samsonite chairs. A perfect example of democratic design. This is all the details about them. We've been using them for 15 years. We just keep using, and they're great. They just don't break, and they're pretty comfortable. 7 pounds. This tabletop is made of Ikea, salvaged from the trash in the street, bonded together with carbon fiber and epoxy, West Systems epoxy resin. I'm pretty sure I'm the only idiot to combine those things because it's so expensive. But when I see the material, I'm like, I know there's life left in this, so I want to keep it going. We'll get more into that in a minute. Again, stuff I wanted that I couldn't afford, like Mies van der Rohe's Barcelona pavilion and a giant boombox from Jamaica, but we made all of it. Obsessed, and this is with foam core, the same material that the Unité de Habitation was made out of. We're talking about foam core and how much I hated it and want to really like make it mine. And this is the Unité was the best example, but also this here is like a solid a sandwich of like a dozen layers. That thing's incredibly heavy and uncomfortable, but I wanted to represent the shapes. Whenever I make something, I always do my best to make it the exact same silhouette, like it will cast the same shadow, even if it's a different material. So super uncomfortable, but really represents. Also, Barcelona chair is not that as comfortable as it is inviting visually, and this is the welting. But of course, any scholar of the Bauhaus will be mortified by the great lie that is the X joint. If we go back to the beginning, I know we're not going to, this is about me and not about the chair, but it's supposed to be this industrially made thing, but it's truly a 19th century piece of engineering, and that it's completely handmade. Even today, the copies of this that are made in China are still welded like this and buffed away. There's no way of getting around it. I believe the greatest example of Bauhaus movement was by Florence Knoll, like the next generation. Just the simplest, most generic picture. If you look up a car in the dictionary, it should be a picture of a Volvo 240. My dictionary. And if you look up a sofa, it should be a Florence Knoll love seat. And this is made out of these things. Some of you don't know, but it used to be that telephones were bolted to the wall, and if you wanted to call someone, there was a book that came every year with everyone's name in it. It was called a phone book. And these are a 1996 New York White Pages phone books. And again, this was just me not having any money, and just you could go to the street and pick up endless phone books, or go to the telephone store, and they would give you as many as you wanted. So it was like free bricks. And but now it's like a retro thing, or it's an anachronism, but the form's there. Shaker furniture, again, something that has been such an inspiration to so many people in this room. And these are made out of Con Edison wood. This is the safety wood that is on the street. So it's all stolen wood that's cut very carefully. This is with a rebating saw. The shaker drying rack, and this is all pine. So when we're talking about pine, I'm thinking shakers, because shakers made everything out of pine for a lot of reasons. Fast growth, easy on the tools, easy on the hands. As for the maker and the user, there's just something, a straight grain, pretty reliable, something very forgiving about it. Here it's highly processed with like very elaborate joints that you can't even see in the picture, but this is the shaker mirror. Both Le Corbusier and shakers would take out their mirrors and their paintings and use them and then put them away. I always thought that was so crazy and suitable for a sculpture. You can't really tell, but this is a mirror hanging from a shaker peg rack. And for those of you who haven't gone down the deep dive of shaker world, and I know you will after this, the idea that a shaker room has pegs around it where you could hang all kinds of different things. Very Ikea shaker stuff. Think about that. But I'm obsessed, and I spent a lot of time at the Shaker Room at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and there's even a YouTube of me going in there talking about it if you want to check that out. This is one of my holy grail objects, again, that I've always wanted, but I can't afford the space for it. It's a pie drying rack. The idea that you would bake pies, it's like 2 meters, right, 3 meters, a huge thing for cooling your pies. Yeah, I'll never have space for that. I just have to accept that. Like, I'll never have a Leica because I can't. Like, I have an iPhone. So Donald Judd is an important figure to me. He was an artist who died in the 90s, and it was the bridge of conceptual art and formal art, and he made these incredibly simple forms, and it was really the ultimate expression of like how little you can get away with, but at the same time, if you look carefully at how they're made, they look like they're made by machine, but they're really, you could only do that by hand with the amount of detail. Not that you can see it in these pictures, but he also made iterative, generative chair designs. This is his chair straight back collection, and these are all the different designs, 10 different shapes, all really uncomfortable, but really beautiful and minimal. And I made some out of Ikea that I found on the street, bonded again with carbon fiber, as a way of trying to combine two things that don't belong together. I believe that 1 + 1 = 1,000,000. If you can choose just the right, wrong two things, you can get something that communicates much more broadly. And Donald Judd sculptures are impossibly expensive, and those chairs, although they're very humble in their appearance, are very expensive. Also, very easy to make yourself. Not so easy when you're using carbon and trying to get it to stick to laminate, but you can see I grindered it away so that, and you can see, and again, like these things are pretty messy. You can see the drips, but it's all plumb and true. Plumb and square. And other versions. I love this one because of the books, and there's a little room for your legs. This is the worst one possible. This is another, it's not in that last series of his drawing, but this is a kind of armchair and a daybed. But then I started to think, well, because I've seen lots of other hipsters have made their own Donald Judds because they can't afford the $4,000 to buy one. I thought, well, how am I going to make it mine? That's always the question. Like, how do you find authenticity in deriving from other people's work? And for me, it was showing the screws. Judd would never show a screw, just completely miraculous. Never a weld, maybe a screw, but the screw heads would be lined up perfectly. So for me, it was leaving the pencil marks, leaving the screws, drilling lightning holes, and that's lightning to, not lightning and thunder, but lightning to save weight, because there's a world in which if you remove material, the structure can actually get stronger because there's less weight that you need to support. So I thought this is a very successful exploration. Again, as a stool, another Judd design. Schindler, another hero of modernism, my version in plywood with lightning. We're talking yesterday about some of the sandwiches. I really am frustrated with mattresses because it's this lie we were talking about. And how do you tell the story? And you can't see it in this photo, but that underneath that fishnet is nearly translucent ripstop nylon, and which you can see the sandwich of the couple of different layers of foam. I know it was very expensive, and then of course right next to you see that I've stapled just really kind of casually a mesh onto the plywood to support it. So this hybrid of very casually made things and very precise made things is what it's all about for me. And of course this fishnet sandwich is bonded to leather. And that's Pirelli shoe rubber bonded to the plywood. Rietveld crate chair, again out of the Con Ed wood that was stolen from the streets. But this one was left on my roof for a few months so that the pine, at least the pine that we have, turns silver, this almost metallic. Anders, there's a seat for you. Anders Delbaum, everybody. And yeah, and the almost metallic iridescent quality of that pine when it's damaged by the sun is magnificent. But you can't cook it too long; it starts to then fall apart. And again, a Rietveld table of that, but that's what it looks like before it's suntanned. And then this is just my design now. This is a lightning tube piece of Con Ed wood and a laminate top. My design again, but this base is made of a construction trellis. In Japan, we don't have sawhorses. We've got little bases like this, and you do put the wood on top. And they also have lightning holes when you buy them at their version of Bauhaus or Home Depot. When you go to Tokyo, my favorite is called Super Viva Home. Next time you're in Tokyo, it's in Kotoku. It's a little far from the city center. Totally worth it because it's like 3 floors and you can buy everything that you can at a building center, but you can also buy a live owl. I worked for Frank Gehry in Santa Monica doing the bent plywood series. So that was kind of my apprenticeship. So I have this one weird expertise in laminating veneer. I don't know what to do with that skill anymore, but I was like the shop assistant on this and built this chair and this whole series. And recently, like 5 or 6 years ago, I took the shape and traced it out onto a piece of plywood, and I started to remove materials and made my version. It's not as light or as beautiful or elegant, but it's something I could do in the shop with the resources and the style in which I'm working now. So it was an authentic expression of that. This is the seat is polycarbonate that's drilled out, and bending polycarbonates, like, just don't do it. You got to put it in an oven, and it takes like days so that it doesn't have air bubbles in it. Total torture. Not recommended, but we did it. This is what a bunch of them look like around a table, just to show like the amount of visual noise that you can create with 5 things. It's like so crazy. Just here, zoom in, like, stop. But this joint is great. That's a piece of, it's just like a sound dampening pad from McMaster-Carr, and as the Eames style shock cushion for absorption on the seat back. It's kind of like just taking, and you can see Eames in this, and you can see Eames here. In fact, the team that I worked in Santa Monica had some overlap with people at 901 Venice, this Eames studio. So it was all kind of the same community, and like I have this like. We all make up our history, so I like to think of myself like before me it was Frank Gehry, and then like Eames, and Eames met Noguchi at Cranbrook, and Noguchi worked for Brancusi, and Brancusi worked for Rodin. So it's all sculpture. And this is a chair that's in production. It's the shop chair, and this is my we tried to do it with Knoll, but we couldn't quite figure out some of the terms. But in the end, we started a factory in North Carolina, or we share a factory with this company called Stokes that makes them for us, and we sell them, a bunch of them, through TomSachs.com furniture, and we do them in a bunch of different colors and veneers. And in arms, we tried this with a titanium and stainless, and I was really happy with the way it weaves through, almost like Toné. Arms are impossible, as you know, it costs more than the chair, but it works. The box. There was a box inside the box. We figured out that it was cheaper just to make another box that fits, that sat on the seat to pack it all in, than using foam. And we wrote table on. I couldn't find a photo of it, but it was really nice because when you bought the chair, it came with a free table. Gotta find that picture. I don't know where that is, Danny. So this is genre, but again with lightning holes. And how to deal with a lie. The Farmplast is a company in New Jersey that makes these milk crates, and we were able to produce. We're talking about the shopping cart company making a sofa. So we were able to produce these very cheaply. For us it was cheap. They were $7, but we only ordered 100 of them. They were willing to do that. But when I was spending time at NASA, I really got into structure paths. So this is like a obsessed over milk crate with structure paths that my friends at NASA kind of helped me out with a little bit. And then we kind of made this one and produced this at the furniture store that was scaled for record albums. Best chair ever. Don't fuck with it. Don't even try. But if you do, this is the best you're gonna get. It's impossible. I tried really hard. Again, working with Tommaso Rivellini at NASA, and it was always tippy. And he said, and I said, I filled the bottom with steel. But it's still kind of tippy. And he's like, well, just fill the top with steel. And I said, well, isn't it gonna tip over? And he showed me, no, it doesn't care where the weight is as long as it's centered. So I bolted like a 90-pound weight on top, and the thing doesn't tip over. It really doesn't matter. So that the table works. It's not as good as the tulip table, but it gets the job done. And I think that's pretty much. I want to leave a little time for questions because I realize I went fast, and I have a couple more slides that we could get into. Actually, I have thousands, but I really want to give an opportunity to open the floor for questions, and I can answer. And I think it's while you're mustering up the courage, I would just say, don't come up to me after and ask me. This is your chance. I've been through this before.
Do you have any dream materials you'd like to work with that you haven't been able to work with yet?
So, I really want to work with particle board because I hate it so much. It's the worst. Every time I come across it, it's just a wall of pain and terror, sorrow, tears, and blood. But I don't believe in such a thing as bad material. It's just about how to manage it. Anthony Bourdain said, "The only bad meal I've ever had is at McDonald's." So I think what he's really saying is it's just about what you choose, how you choose to approach the situation. And so I think in the same way that foam core was so difficult, but we found a way of once you could say owning it is maybe a little aggressive, but coming to terms with it and respecting it for what it is.
Thanks.
Hello, that was lovely. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you. Yeah.
The question I have, it's actually related to the previous panel a little bit as well. But so you've done some amazing work. You've worked on a lot of great pieces and great projects. Do you ever get creative burnout? And how do you protect your creativity?
I love the last panel, and Well, I have a bunch of strategies. So first of all, I don't believe in writer's block. The best thing you can do is, if at first you don't succeed, give up immediately.
Yeah, good. That's a good strategy.
And move on to something else that's fun. And if you don't know what you want to do with your life, like I said before, your job is figuring that out. So move on to the next thing. Work that problem until you get stuck. And then if you have the luxury of time, and this is, again, from a idealized position, and it's kind of privileged having enough time, work on a third thing. And if you can do 3 or more, but 3, by the time you've gotten stuck on the third thing, your subconscious mind will have solved part of the first problem, sort of like sleeping on it, but faster, because you're activating the physicality of your body. And the thing I would have added, if I was on the panel before, I would have said something with your body, like touch clay. Every morning before I look at my phone, I write in my journal or draw, or ideally I'll make a ceramic tea bowl, a chawan, because there's no thinking. I mean, there is, but it's more of like an athletic exercise, and I think sports are really important because they help us shut off our brains and connect with our bodies and remind us that our brains and bodies are one. And people always say, "Oh no, you got to keep your body strong so you're good with at your job." But the opposite's true. You've got to use your brain to make time so you can exercise your body to take care of it, because without it you can't live. They're like, it's not one, there's no hierarchy. They're one.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
Another question here.
Hi, Tom. A little segue. I was just looking at the things, and you talked about like your lust for consumerism, and when you were creating these sculptures of like different names and brands like McDonald's or Hermes or Chanel, maybe some you collaborated with, maybe you didn't. How was the copyright infringement angle of those when you played around with like brands?
Well, with art, I think that with IP, the most important thing is that you don't threaten the business of the other person. And in art, you can kind of do whatever you want, because like Chanel's not making guillotines, right? But they make T-shirts, so maybe if I made a Chanel T-shirt, that might be threatening. We used to have a pirate radio station, and in Austin, Texas, and the goal was you wanted your transmitter to be as powerful as possible without infecting someone else's frequency. Because if you get onto their turf, they're going to have a beef with you, and they're going to call the Federal Communications FCC company service, and you'll get shut down. But if you're not messing with someone else's, it's like Hank Williams said, mind your own business and you won't be minding mine.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you. I had a question about how you've thought about. You did some stuff with the crypto stuff.
Yeah.
And then now we've got the next technology that is with AI and AGI coming. And if you're working on doing something with that, and the engineering terms on that.
Well, I mean, that's a whole other can of worms. We did a project called Tom Sachs Rocket Factory, which I'm really proud of, where we were able to use the blockchain to help people make generative art. That it's a long one, and I think what was so successful is that our project, unlike any other in the sphere, was heavily weighted to physical objects. Like, you would make a rocket in digital space, send us the info, we'd build it, we'd launch it, and then we'd mail it to you. And on the blockchain, there was a picture of the rocket, a picture of the cartoon that you'd make of it, a picture of its launch, its name, all the data when everything happened. And at the end, when we'd mail it to you, you actually had a choice. We could mail it to you, or you could allow us to donate it to a museum. We got 100 people to donate and make a cabinet that was acquired by the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, which is like the best collection in California. And then some people decided to have their rockets shredded. And those are the rarest people. Only 43 people did that. But in the sense of rarity, those are the most valuable, the people who gave up on the physical just to have the digital token showing that the thing was shredded. It was pretty special and rare. Rarity sometimes equates with monetary value. That's not so important to me, but it is kind of how that project shook out. I'm not ready to talk about AI, except that it's a great tool, but like everything else, you must learn to use it, and you should, and we all must use it, and we will. But let's not get cocky, and please, 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 when you use Gemini to revise your emails, read it before you send it out, especially if you're sending it to me, because in English there's a word that architects use called oversight, and it has two meanings. One is the thing that they bill you for, or we bill the client for, meaning we bill you to oversee the project. But then when something's totally fucked up and it goes wrong, and you say, what happened? They're like, oh, it was an oversight. So it's kind of the same word that means two different things. And in language, in all languages, there's nuance. So I just, how do I say it? AI, like any other tool, is a responsibility. Or maybe I should say, AI, like a gun, is responsibility.
We had a question down here.
Have you tried to rebuild an IKEA furniture?
Well,
you have something in your studio, perhaps, that you altered or modified.
Well, sure. I love IKEA hacks. I mean, today, I don't know if you guys saw, it kind of went viral. We made this pencil to announce this event, and this is an IKEA pencil that I put a bristle spoke on and some tape and then a Pentel high polymer eraser. So I consider this a piece of IKEA hack. I think there's something really special. I think one of the things that I'm always trying to do is build a greater connection with our things. Like if you can take care of your body, right, and then take care of your things, you can take care of your communities and ultimately your planet. But like I think it's important, for example, when you buy blue jeans, to buy them new and wear the holes in your knees yourself and show the history. Like I kind of lean on my left side when I'm working on the floor, so my left knee always has a hole before my right knee does. And I'm always trying to find a connection with my things. So a piece of IKEA furniture that's been around maybe has a repair, and I'll show it. And that, like the bar in my house is a cabinet with glass doors. I made the glass doors and stuff, casters on it, marble top. That's at core. Yeah.
I think that's all we've got time for today.
Perfect.
But a huge round of applause for Tom
you.
Sachs.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.